I'm Taryn Rosenkranz, and this is Political TrailMix, where strategy meets storytelling, and every episode unpacks the people, power, and politics shaping our country. Let's dig in. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Political TrailMix with Taryn. I am so excited about one of my guests today because she and I have a great time every time we are together, just sitting and discussing the world at large. I have a lot in common with her, but I really do think that she is going to be so insightful today. No pressure, no pressure. And just talking about everything, including I love having other digital people on. I think it's something that we just get to really dig into. And there's, not that many women in the digital industry when it comes to politics. And so I do think we've had lots of lengthy discussion about that as well. So I'm excited to have her here with me. And Zandria Haines is with us. And do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be here and excited to kiki now, professionally in this professional setting and not just, at a conference on the side. But yeah, I'm Zandria Haines. I'm a partner at Moxie Media. We are a Black, Latina, and majority woman-owned male firm. We've been around for almost 30 years, and so there are lots of lessons learned that we have learned along the way. So I'm excited to talk about that too. And I've been in direct voter contact now for almost 2 decades. I've worked in phones, texting, digital. So I feel like I bring a lot of different perspectives to this space, and I'm excited to dive in.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to hear, I know I've heard a little bit of what you're doing now. What was your backstory? What's your origin story here? Like, how did you get into politics?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I feel like I have a pretty unorthodox start in this space. I am one of the operatives who started in the direct voter contact world before working on a campaign.
Mm.
And I can kind of walk you through how I got there. So I'm from Mississippi. Was a double major in college. My senior year of college, I had to student teach in the public school systems in Jackson, Mississippi. Also, a small stint in a private school in Jackson, Mississippi. And during that time, I realized just the differences
Mm.
and how unequal the education, the settings were. And I decided I was going to move to DC, work at the Department of Education, change the world. So I was very interested in the policy side of politics to begin with. So I moved up here, no job lined up, no, really no, security at all, except for I wanted to change the world and worked
Yeah.
on the Hill for a bit, worked as a lobbyist for a bit, and I realized like after 3 or 4 years, policy just wasn't my thing. It moved too slow. It didn't make me feel like I was making an impact at all. I felt like I was in a bubble. And I
Mm.
randomly applied for an account manager position at it's then the Spoken Hub. Now it's Hub Dialer. And I got the job, and that's when I landed like in the world of direct voter contact, and I've been here ever since. Um, and so I like to tell that story because I do feel like a lot of people who are just getting started in this industry feel like they, have to, start in a campaign to understand this world. Or if you want to work in policy, you have to work on the Hill for like 20 years. And that's just not the case. And I feel like if you find something that, you love doing and you wake up every day and you feel like you're making an impact, even if it's behind the scenes, it's worth, going after.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? So many people feel like it's a straight line. It is never a straight line.
Never a straight line. No. And I also feel like now, I've had this interesting journey too, even within this space, starting in phones. I think texting kind of made sense as
Yeah,
my
yeah, sure, sure.
my next move. And then texting always fell under a digital budget. So digital made sense. And now I've made this huge leap to mail, which has been a really fun new thing that I'm doing this cycle. And so, yeah, I think it's never too late to do something new.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, let's talk about direct mail for a second because I actually I briefly did direct mail, but on the fundraising side when I worked at the DCCC,
Hmm.
and I was really thrown into it and thought like they were using all these acronyms at the time. I always laugh about it. Like they were like BRE, and I would just like nod and be like, yes, of course, and then I'd be like Googling like what's a BRE.
Yeah.
Which is a business reply envelope for those who don't know. I do now know that, but it was just this world of like, it's just so fascinating. but it really is the most creative, wonderful thing because it is like without being able to use, you got to use the visuals in a strong enough way to compel people. It's like everything we're ever doing, but you're taking out, you're like upping the degree of difficulty because you're taking out sort of the audio component and you're taking it. So anyway, I have high regards and respect for the industry. But I'm curious, the reason I wanted to talk about direct mail is because do you think, for I would say 20 years ago when I started, it was more than 20 years ago I started in politics, but more than 20 years, people have been saying direct mail is dying, direct mail is dead. And yet sometimes I think it's the most persuasive of all of them and the most difficult to work on. So I'm just curious, like, do you think it's as strong as ever? Because that's sort of my impression of it, to be quite honest, that it actually stands out more than your cluttered inbox and email and texting. And, some of it's just like even you're tuning out commercials, but those mail pieces, even when you're recycling them, you're still seeing them, right? You're still
Exactly.
seeing that photo and the image and what's happening.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think that, coming off of the 24 cycle, we saw that Republicans outspent us and, sending mail, and they obviously won. And so I think now making the case for mail is even stronger. I don't think the
Mhm.
case is getting weaker to include mail into your overall campaign toolkit and your media plan. I think when you also think about mail, it's something that we have gotten all of our lives. We've all received mail. We know what it is. It feels real because it is real, right? And so when I think about where we are today and how AI is playing more of a role and people are using it more and more, there are bots in our comments and engaging with our content. Mail is even more trusted. It's something that when it lands in your mailbox that it came from a human or it came
Yeah.
from a campaign. It's not someone dropping off a bot at your door. And if someone did that, that would be weird, right? And so, I feel like when mail lands in someone's mailbox, and even if they're taking it from their mailbox to the trash can or to the recycling bin or whatever, they are still holding it. It's tactile, and they are getting 5 to 7 seconds, at least of interaction with what you've sent them.
Yeah.
And so I think that matters more and more now than ever, is making sure that something feels real, and is really resonating that way.
Gosh, that's really profound, actually, because I do think the tactile piece is what it is, right? It is profound. It is really just confounding it to be like, this is real. This
Yeah.
person is real. It humanizes them in a little bit because you're holding it in your hands. It does feel a little more real than a voice on a screen and a box and moving images and some of that. That's really true. And I do agree with you. I've been saying it for years. Like direct mail is never going to die. I think there will be other thing like email will die before direct mail will die just because of the fact that as long as the post office is in business, and things are being delivered, there is a special kind of moment or ability to kind of really feel like it's real.
Yeah.
All right, on that side of not real and bots and everything else, I mean, digital is constantly evolving. You said it just a minute ago, which was what made me pick up on it and want to ask more about it and like hear more. It's like with AI and everything, I mean, it's constantly evolving. Are there things that sort of, digital politics, this sort of overarching convergence, if you will, do you think that this industry is going to be even more different? I mean, each like few years, it just keeps changing. What are you excited about? What are you scared of? Like, what is your sort of seeing of the world in the future here with your crystal ball?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm both, right? I think some people are like, what's there to be afraid of? Like digital's awesome, and digital is awesome, and that's why I, did it for so many years. And I think when I think about what is exciting about digital and what, I wanted to do is I wanted to reach more people, right? I wanted to reach people where they are, wherever they were. I wanted to especially reach those traditionally hard to reach voters, like people of
Mm,
color when we don't have great data on them in the data file, young voters. And so digital is a really great way to reach them, right? Another cool thing about digital and what I would like to see more of is us using more behavioral and interest targeting. Like we
yeah.
can, you know, be so thoughtful around strategy and messaging based on people's interest and, what they're interested in. And I think we could do a lot of great, hyper targeting that way that we don't do enough now. On the flip side of that, I think the scary part is, the same tools that we're using. Like we have these really great tools, But I think that we've got a lot of bad actors that are also using these same tools to spread disinformation really quickly. And I think that we still haven't quite figured out how to combat it, right? Or combat
Yeah.
it as fast as it is spreading. And so I think that is something that's really scary. I think the
Yeah.
other piece of it is, there are a lot of people that are using AI to create fake videos, and
Mhm.
those fake videos look very real and sound
Yeah.
very real. And so it's getting really hard for us, and even us as voters, to
Mhm.
understand, like, what's genuine and what's not.
No, I mean and even if you were to, we've talked about this so much because you and I both sit on the AAPC board,
Mhm.
which is the Association of Political Consultants, which is Republicans and Democrats, right? And we talk about this all the time. It's like they're generating deep fakes. Like, what do we do about it? And then if you put rules around it, then are those rules too restrictive? Because everything's sort of like undefined. And I feel like when I got into digital in the first place and into politics, it was sort of the wild, wild west when it came with anything digital, you know? And so
Yeah.
there is a distrust around it because we're still in those phases of like the chaotic phase where people just don't really know what they can get away with and you don't know what to trust. Which goes back to the staying power of mail, right? Like, because you feel like there's more trust there, there's more real there.
Yeah. And I
Super.
think something, oh, I'm sorry,
No,
Taylor. I
no,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say one more thing. Just that reminded me of, like, kind of within that same vein, I think, at the end of the day, we're in this work because we want to give people or provide the information that people need to make a choice, right? And so I think once our tools start working against that, even if it's by accident, then we've got a real problem, right? And I think that we as practitioners just have to be intentional about, how we're using these tools in this space.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, if we can do the right thing, if as many of us can do the right thing, then it's helpful, right? Like because since then the the bad actors of it will, if you will, are the ones that we can sort of all recognize if we're all doing the right thing, then they're a little easier to distinguish who the bad actors really are. Which I think is a good thing. I mean, this misinformation and disinformation stuff to me, I agree with you. I think number one scary part of all of this is that how quickly it spreads and what you're not being able to confirm what's real and what's not. And that just leads to an overall distrust in society, right? Like about everything. And none of that feels good. I
Right.
mean, speaking about things that like are hard. Like I said, I think I said this at the beginning and I will say it again. I really like enjoy talking to other women in the industry because I do feel like this is an industry that is maybe not as dominated with women. You are a woman of color. You are a mom. That's another thing that is not very often seen here, as being one who's been a mom this, for the last since last 17 years, I can tell you like there's not a lot of us out there. And so I know the firm that you joined is really the owner and founder there has been great and very open about talking about it over the years too. But there just aren't enough of us. And I like speaking up about the fact that it can sometimes be hard. But what I love is that all these smart, really wonderful moms, all these smart, wonderful business owners, entrepreneurs, like really smart political strategists, all of the above, right? I like asking for their advice and their pro tips of how they survive and not just, you know, they can maybe even thrive if that's possible. But it's not like there's, oh, how do you do it all? But I do have such admiration for everybody and especially for you that I like to ask those people's advice because I think these are conversations we should have.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see a lot of us because it's hard, right? Like, I'll be honest, I'll be real here. I feel like some days I feel like I'm killing it, and other days I feel like I'm barely getting through, and both of those are okay. I used to get this question a lot. I was a PTO president for my kids' school, and I mean, I was essentially, I mean, I did everything there. And not because I had to, it's because I wanted to, right? Because I'm a
Yeah.
little crazy. But they were like, how do you do all of this? I'm like, honestly, I think I just do everything poorly. And it really, I had to sit with that because I had no time at the end of the day left for myself or any type of self-care, and I was giving to like everything and everyone else. And so what's really helped me is honestly just saying no more.
Mhm.
It's something that I've learned, and it's the hardest sentence to say for me, but it has been really helpful. But I think the other piece of it is also realizing that, social media is playing a huge part in how we think motherhood should be and how we think that
Hmm.
we should show up as mothers and working mothers. And we just have to kind of like put that to the side, right? That's just not realistic. And so when I now think about motherhood and being a working mom, what's important to me is reminding myself like why I do this work. Like I do this work to for my kids to have a better life than I had,
Hmm.
and for their kids and their kids to, have futures and great futures. And so it's a lot that I think for me it's more of like what's behind the work that really
Yeah.
that makes me feel like I'm thriving, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think for, even if you're a mom or not a mom, like being a woman in this space is tough. And, you're going to walk into rooms where you're not going to see a lot of people that look like you. And so what I will say is that you got to find your people, and that's really been helpful for me. I've built a really strong circle of women. They're a mix of women of color, women that are moms, women who are, partners or owners of their firms as well. And it really helps when you have people who are in your circle, who are showing up for you,
Hmm.
um, celebrating with you, and really there for both like the good and the bad times. And so that's been really helpful. And then I think the other piece of this is, if you're just starting out in this space and you're like, what am I doing? Why did I ever enter this space? This is so hard. There are spaces out
And
there
we
that,
all have those moments. That's why I
yes,
laughed.
I mean, we still
That's
have
why
those
I
moments,
laughed. I was
right?
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
yeah.
and we still have those moments, like almost 20 years or 20 plus years
Hmm.
in. And so find a place where you can be yourself and, be taken seriously. Like there are seats for us at tables, and we just have to take up the space. And so that would be my advice to people who are just starting out in this space is, don't be intimidated. It's tough, but if you surround yourself with the right people, it's very rewarding.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I said ask the question too. To me, like I've been asking that question to everyone that I like admire because I think that's how you start these conversations. And then you share a moment where you both giggle that you're like, yeah, I've had that feeling. I've had that thought, right? Like I've had that fear. I've had that moment, right? I also kind of giggled when you said sometimes I just do everything poorly. I think I've said that so many times to so many people. They're like, "How do you do it all?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just do everything pretty poorly and it works out." You know,
Yeah, I mean, we're all
you just do
humans, right?
everything to like the it's like
Yeah, it's like
because there are going to be moments. What is it? Shonda Rhimes did the. Have you seen that? It goes around on TikTok all the time, but it's like the Shonda Rhimes like commencement address that she did, and she basically was
Yes,
like, "The days that I'm best at work and the days I'm best at motherhood are not the same days."
yes.
Like,
It's so
she's
it's so
like,
relatable.
like
And
she was like,
another
if
thing,
I'm like there for so and so's last day on the set and it's this pivotal moment, and she's like, then I've missed my child's like, first flute recital or whatever it was. But it was
yeah,
like very interesting to me because I was like, God, that's so true. And I will say, like, Nancy Pelosi at her like 2006 became first female speaker of the house basically said that she had done it all but all at different times and it's sort of the
mhm,
same idea. It's like I've lived my life trying to be like mowing that each moment is a different moment in time, and so like you said, sometimes you're killing it and sometimes you're not, and that's okay. Like I have
yeah,
driven from one side of Capitol Hill to like make it to a game that I definitely missed.
yeah.
Like,
It's
and then I'm
it's
like,
it's
but
a
I left
balance.
that meeting early and I screwed up that. Now I've done this. It just, you're just doing the best you can.
Exactly. Always doing the best you can. And another thing, like as we were talking, I just thought about this is, and what I've told other women who are starting out in this space before is when you are looking to join a firm, look at the leadership and
Yeah.
look for people who look like you, who will have the same lived experience as you. Like the fact that I am at a place where, the majority of our team, we are parents and
Yeah.
we know what it's like to juggle this job in this space with the high demands that it brings and also show up for your family and show up for your children. So I would say also, just make sure that you see someone who looks like you.
Switching gears for a second.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say The Democratic Party, I mean, there is nothing like I don't want to leave my house sometimes because I feel like we go somewhere and people who don't work in politics are like, let me tell you what the Democrats are doing wrong because I'm really worried about the way the world is happening. And so I don't like to harp on that too much. I love to ask people these questions, but it's not that necessarily, we don't all have our complaints, but I do like to have these discussions and for people to kind of hear like how we as practitioners, especially those who are dealing with voter contact, like, how do Democrats get that message out more effectively? Like, what do you think are our strong tools as we go into this cycle, into these very critical midterms? And, what are some pain points that you're kind of thinking about trying to avoid this go round?
Yeah. Well, I think it's an interesting point that you bring up tools because I think we have a ton of tools that help us work more efficiently, right? But when I think about how to get a message out effectively, I think about the messenger. And I think that's what we haven't quite consistently gotten right over the last few cycles. And what I mean by that is like you can have the best creative, you can have, the best message, the best tool to deliver that message on. But if you don't have the right messenger, then, who's going to listen to it? It's like, what does it matter? It's not going to land. And so what I've seen a lot this cycle is, campaigns are really leaning into validators and not just, micro influencers or celebrity influencers or even like high profile community leaders, but real people who are, experiencing the same kitchen table issues as most of the
Hmm.
country. And it's directly impacted by the terrible policies of this administration. And so, what I would like to see more of, and what I am hoping to see more of this cycle is just those voices of
Hmm.
those real people, because I do think that those types of voices are actually going to cut through. When you think about seeing someone on screen or getting a text message from someone and watching a video or seeing or hearing their story, it's going to be so much more impactful if it's relatable. If you see someone who looks like you and lives like you and is experiencing the same things that you are, you're going to listen differently, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's a key piece of it. Another piece of it is, not that I don't think we're doing it wrong, but I think we could do it better, is just
Yeah.
talking to people year round, like
Yeah.
nonstop. I think that, one thing that we do is we'll wait until GOTV for specific demographics, or, we'll wait into like the election cycle and we're trying to address the issues and we're being more reactive than proactive. And so I think people or voters are starting to feel like that's not super genuine. And so
Yeah.
having those conversations year round, listening to people, on the ground, what people are really feeling out there right now, and also bringing solutions
Hmm.
to their problems will be really, really important. And I think obviously make our campaigns more effective in the long run.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I go back and think about this all the time is like what it's because we're bombarded with messages all the time that we've made the messages that much more critical, right? And so I think, just because you have the opportunity to talk to someone 9 million times, but you've never said anything, right? Like I feel like that's where Democrats get messed up because it is like we're waiting until it's GOTV and then the rest of the time we're just asking them for money or you know what I mean? Like
Right.
we're not talking to them about the issues. We're not talking to them about our accomplishments. We're not, humble bragging about things that may have helped or, or things that we want to do better. And I think you're so right there. It just seems to be something that, politics, and I think both sides of the aisle, quite honestly, like struggle a little bit with like how to break through. But I think Democrats really got away from standing up because there's so many lies and misinformation and this, that, and the other thing of like not being in reactive mode.
Yeah. And, I think another piece to that too is how we talk to people, like outside
Hmm.
of the messenger piece is, making sure that we're using accessible language. I remember there was this ad that we ran. This was probably actually it was 2020. And, one ad, we did an A/B test. One ad used tax child credit, the other one used tax child break. And we got so much
I
more
would imagine that
engagement.
would do, right?
Yeah, yeah, on
That would
break.
do
And
so
just
much
because,
better, right? Hmm.
yes. And so it's just, I feel like the words that we are using aren't always accessible.
Yeah.
And so, we should just remember to be human and talk to people and like the way that they talk. And I think that could also take us a long way as well.
Yeah, I mean, I try really hard to go back and fix scripts all the time and fix things that are like, because people are writing, like somebody, even just yesterday, I feel like I was in a retreat and we were talking about this, it's like, but they're like working class. And I'm like, no, let's just say what you do for a living rather than saying I'm working class. Like, who refers to themselves as working
Yeah.
class?
Yeah,
And
no
also,
one.
like, no matter how we think about it, no matter what we do, like, nobody wants, like, it's just not a word that should come out of your mouth. Like, and I love that we're all talking about how things cost too damn much, but people are using affordability. And I'm like, stop saying
Yeah.
affordability. Like,
Yeah.
gas costs too much. It costs too much to go to the doctor. Your health insurance is gone up. Like, let's just talk like we know we're talking. Like, when I go to the grocery store, I know that like chicken is now ridiculously expensive, right? Where it was always kind of expensive. Now it's like feels absurd, right? Those are the
Yeah.
things we want to be talking about. Like, we don't want to be saying affordability, and affordable housing. And I'm like, just no one talks like that.
No
And if they
one. Remember
do,
the rent is too damn high guy?
yes.
Remember how popular he was? Like that's the energy that we need to bring
That's the
in
vibe,
2026.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As my daughter would say, that's the vibe.
Yeah.
I literally feel like it's really important that we kind of keep that. What did you use it before? You said accessible, like accessible language, like the words that we all can relate to. I think it was maybe relatable. But anyway, I love that because I do feel like that's where we all kind of get away from it. And being people who are doing voter contact regularly, it's like just have to remember. And I love listening to my friends who are not in politics, who are either complaining or saying something or doing something because what their kitchen table issue, what digital door knock is what I'm seeing on these posts and things are like you have to we've really, really leaned into social media listening. I was telling you that the other day because we really want to hear what people are saying so that we are mirroring that language. Like we get it. Like it's about going to the grocery store and paying too much at the end of the day. And like, wow, I didn't realize that this is so much more than it ever was before. Um, so I do want us to stay grounded in that, and it's yet another reason I like to work with you because I know we share similar ideas there. I like to ask people sort of their rock star moment stories, like your trip down memory lane of like anytime you've been doing this voter contact and you've worked with someone like. What's a story, a favorite memory, or a biggest star story of what makes you a rock star? But anything that just is kind of that memory that makes you smile.
Wow. Okay. So I will say by far the 2018 midterm cycle is my favorite cycle so far. Um, I was at Hustle at the time, and Hustle, that was our biggest cycle. We had
Yeah,
been the first texting tool for Democrats. At that time, there were only two texting tools out there.
yeah.
We had over 1,300 campaigns, 45 state parties, all the Democratic uh,
We definitely use hustle that
yeah,
cycle.
all the committees. And so, we were like on top of the world and it was fun. It was different. It was exciting. We were all building something new. Also, shout out to Hustle because they just announced that they are fully employee owned now. So it's
Oh,
exciting new
wow, that's
chapter for
great.
them. But I remember, it was about a month before Election Day. And we had just rolled out, or Hustle had just rolled out a new feature, and it was a rollover feature. So if there was a volunteer who was texting a person, and then they like ended their shift, and the person texted back later, then it would roll that conversation over to another volunteer to pick up the conversation. So it just wouldn't leave the person hanging. And I remember election night, we were, all at the office working late watching everything like come in. And it was in Georgia, it was I think they extended the polls for an extra 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but they extended the time at the polls. And so
If you
we
were
all,
already in line or something.
yeah, so if you're already in
I
line,
remember that. I
yeah,
remember this. That's why I said that. I was like, actually, as I just told you, I can't remember anything, but I will say I do remember this.
yes. And so we like jumped in, we all like got our phones, computers, and we jumped into Stacey Abrams' her groups and her account, and we just started texting people like if you're in line stay in line, if you're in line stay in line. And one of my friends, we were also like recruiting volunteers, and I just like
Yeah.
sending out to my friends. I was like, hey, can you please help text out the vote, TOTV in Georgia? And I have this friend who like sent a screenshot of a conversation that she had with a voter, and she sent back a message after she voted, and she said, "Thank you so much. I would not have stayed in line, and I wouldn't have voted if I didn't get this message." And that was because of that rollover feature. And my friend had
Yeah.
picked up that conversation from hours earlier. And so I think, in the moment, it's not always that we can like see the impacts of what we are or the
Right.
work that we're doing in the moment. And that was such a cool experience to both like, you know, hours and days and like long hour, working long hours over days and days and months. And it comes down to this one thing that she didn't win, obviously, sadly,
Yeah.
but we still made a difference in what seemed like a very small way, but it was a difference, right? And it was also cool that like I brought a friend who was in Mississippi helping, test
Yeah.
out
Was
the vote in
helping somewhere else.
Georgia. Yeah,
And
and
what's,
so
I mean, Georgia eventually worked out, not for poor Stacey
yeah,
Abrams, but we did get there.
it did, and it was because of that rollover feature. I'm just kidding, but yeah, it's very cool to see, the work that you've, been working on and you've worked so hard over, like, make an impact in the moment. And so I think that's definitely one of my like favorite moments. I wouldn't say it's a rock star moment for me personally, but just a very cool moment to
Didn't have to
experience
be.
and
It
feeling
didn't
to
have to be. It can
experience.
just be those moments. But like those are the things that keep us going, right? Like
Yeah,
this is an industry where people get burned out. It's really
exactly.
hard. People lose. I mean, this is like we really have joined an industry where there's constant rejection. Like, right?
Right.
Like it's constantly like bad news and rejection. And there are victories, do not get me wrong, but many times the moment they win, like 2 seconds later, it's like they're back up for re-election. It's just there's
Yeah,
not a lot of um, moments where you get to do a victory lap. And so I
exactly.
like to ask people these questions you come on because this is part of being on the trail. This is part of politics. This is part of like being part of the process is that we all need those moments. That's why I ask people, I'm like, remind yourself you're a rock star, remind yourself why you're doing this work because we all need to hear it. And we also need to hear those like I loved it. It like gave me goosebumps and I love hearing it because I like those stories because it's a reminder of like just how much the work we are doing is impacting literally every single solitary vote. And if you think about some of these races in the past 10 years, they've come down to like, you know, less than 100 votes in some of these instances. And so it really does make a difference if you get one person to stay in line. And the fact that you were able to do it with technology, like that blows my mind, right? Because we were able to bring someone from Mississippi, which makes the world feel like a smaller place. And it feels awful and big and large right now sometimes. And so I do like to bring these stories out of everybody.
Yeah, and
So
you should ask us again next year because hopefully
we're
we'll
gonna
be
have so
celebrating
many.
after the
We're gonna have
midterms this year.
so many. I'm gonna knock on wood for that one. Um,
Me too.
would you have any advice to somebody who says they wanted to get into politics? I think I may have just given away some of my advice, like remind yourself every once in a while of why you're in it. But I'm just
Yeah.
curious if there's anything you would tell somebody if they wanted to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the time is now, right? Like
Yeah.
we need fresh ideas and we need new people and we need more hands. And so I would say if two parts to this, if you want to get involved and if you want to run for office, I think you
Hmm.
should start local. That's obviously now
Yeah.
more important than ever.
Yeah.
School board, city council, I feel, and also like don't wait until you feel ready. This is a piece of advice that my mom gave me years ago, when I wanted to have a child, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna wait. I need to like figure out my career. I'm not ready yet. She's like, you're never gonna be ready. And I feel like that's the same here. Like you're never gonna be ready to run. You just do it.
Yeah.
And I think if you want to get involved from like, just a volunteer perspective, or even an operative perspective, like jump in and get your hands dirty and do the work that's not so sexy first.
Hmm.
Obviously, we all need money. Campaigns need money, write a check. But I think the things that are really going to be the most impactful is go knock on doors, go make calls, go to local events, and
Hmm.
do the not so glamorous behind the scenes work.
Yeah. Because it's what matters, honestly. Like we
Truly,
need
yeah.
the people won't do them and yeah. Yeah. It's really exciting actually because I like, you know that my children are both like in high school, but I like when I was in high school, I was volunteering on campaigns and it's like what gave me the bug of like I want to do politics and why I ended up like staying in DC to go to college and all these things. And I literally like she's been volunteering for a campaign, and I'm like, this is so like it's just it's inspiring and it's important, and it partly is because especially about what's going on right now in the world. Like she's like, I can't vote, but is there something I can do?
Yeah, I love that.
Love that,
Yeah.
right? Like, I love that. I want the kids to feel like they have some agency over what feels like chaos right now for most of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Some
And so
control
I
over
know,
something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I do, I have a lot of friends too who are like, not in politics who live other parts of the country and they're like, I feel so lost. I want to do something. And that's sort of one of those things that I'm like, I love it. Like, just do it, as Nike would say, but like, just do it. You're never going to be ready. And it's so true because I can talk myself out of anything, but we should be talking ourselves into things.
Same. Words to live
All
by.
right. I have just one last question for you. I just want to know a prediction. I've asked everyone this, and I
Mhm.
won't hold you to it, and there's no money involved.
Okay.
We're not betting on the prediction market because I just had that with one of my races. There was a scandal for the opponent, like he bet on himself in the prediction market, the political predictions market, and now they
Uh-huh.
banned it in certain states. So anyway, so no money is changing hands,
Okay. But
but
it,
I
but
do
if
like
if
to
it
hear
comes
people's
true,
predictions.
I would like
Yeah, you could have made money, but you can't. But I guess it's like because of the insider information, if you're like betting on yourself, like you have, it's like insider trading. But anyway, that's not what we're doing here. Um, but I did want to have your prediction for the midterms.
Okay. So I'm actually feeling hopeful.
Okay.
I think, coming out of the Georgia primary, and we saw where Democrats outperformed Republicans this week.
Yep.
I'm thinking about Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey last year. I think America is hopefully going to show up this cycle. And so I'm feeling hopeful. I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about the House.
Yeah.
I think the Senate just has a tougher map. But what I will put out there, this is my prediction and my hope, is
Okay.
that being from Mississippi, I think that Mississippi is really closer than we all think.
Okay.
Scott Colomb, who is a district
Hmm.
attorney in Mississippi, is
Hmm.
running against Cindy Hyde-Smith. He's
Hmm.
actually a good friend of mine. Went to college with him. He'd be a wonderful senator. And I am hopeful that he will win. And I think that if a state like Mississippi can win in this political climate, then I think it'll really show our party, where
Hmm.
we're headed, but also the Republican Party that Americans are ready for new leadership and don't agree with this type of leadership that we have
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so I am hopeful that that prediction will come true because
I
that would be
love
amazing.
that. I love that. Every year, I always like want to find that race. So now this is my race. I will adopt it.
Yeah, me
But I
too.
like to find those races that are sort of the ones that no one's paying attention to that end up like winning or end up outperforming or you know what I mean? Like that I'm like, this is where if we had just invested this much more money or if we had just paid a little bit more attention to this or somebody else came in to help because there is always those races. And I do feel like in this political climate, people feel very unheard. And
Mhm.
if the incumbents aren't doing the work and they're not doing what they need to be doing for the people, like people do get pissed off eventually and don't want that kind of leadership and the one that ignores them, right? So I think there's a lot of hope to be had. And also, I love hope. Let's just like remember that's how we got Barack Obama. That's like,
I know
hope
we're going to
is,
lean
yeah,
into it. We're leaning into it.
yeah. I remember,
I want that feeling again.
yeah, I was gonna say, I remember that feeling. I
Yeah.
just like to get there again.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think we end this on a very hopeful note. I think that's a great prediction, and I certainly hope it comes true. And I actually love drawing attention to another great race because I was actually just reading about this the other day in Mississippi. So I feel like the South is ready. I think we're seeing it with Georgia. I know we had a little backslide, but in 2024, but even still, we still saw outperformance, and it's 2025 was insane, and now with the primary last Tuesday, we're just seeing it. I think the South is ready to come back and say, you know what, no more. So,
Yeah. You heard it
well,
here
thank
first.
you for joining me. Oh, sorry. I feel like I cut you off. Please say something else. I'm
No, I
sorry.
said you heard it here first. You heard it
Oh,
here
good.
first. The
Yes.
South is
Yes.
ready.
I know. I know. It would be great if we were like, yes, let's have you. I'll have you back. We'll have him on. Um, I would love to keep chatting. We'll have to do this next time with, beverages of some adult sort, whether that's coffee or wine or whatever. But I always enjoy talking to you. So thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with me.
You too. Thanks so much again for having me, Taryn.
Thanks for listening to Political Trail Mix. Make sure to follow and review wherever you get your podcasts and stay connected with me on Instagram and YouTube. Let's keep this conversation going.